So ladies and gentlemen, we're now moving on to problem 2-88. Joe Dominguez has decided to plant a rectangular flower garden. Joe loves red carnations. He wants 50% of the garden to be planted with carnations, and 1/3 of the carnations must be red. Now in class, what I did is I had students try to work on this problem using the previous problem, problem 2-86, as a guide. And then we came in and we did it together. So again, we have where Joe Dominguez plants a rectangular flower garden. Joe loves carnations. He wants 50% of the garden to be planted with carnations, and 1/3 of the carnations must be red. Alpha says on a unit rectangle, label and shade the fraction of the garden that must be carnations. Now the key part of this is we have the word fraction. But we aren't given a fraction to begin with. Instead, we have 50%. So we have to convert our percentage into a fraction. So if I have 50%, 50% is equivalent to 1/2. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back over here. We're on 288. And we are going to, I usually do not pick the one right next to the one that I just did. We've got plenty of room on here. I usually go over here so I don't get confused as to which unit rectangle is for what. So I'm going to start right here, and it says 50% or 1/2 is carnation. So again, I'm going to split this guy in half. I'm going to label. And I'm going to shade that guy in really lightly because again, I know that I need to double shade to know what my numerator is. And so I don't want to shade too darkly on this guy right here because it might confuse me later. Now label and shade the fraction of the carnations that must be red. So we go back up here, it says we have our half of the garden that is planted with carnations and 1/3 of the carnations must be red. This was hard for a lot of students in class, the fact that it was in word form. So make sure you're reading the problem carefully. Don't just scan for numbers. I understand the idea of trying to, quickly look, but sometimes it is like this where it's in word form and you might not see it. So 1/3 of the carnations must be red. So we're going to come back over here, and as a reminder, for the 1/3, or to do our thirds, we want to make sure that we are splitting our unit rectangle the other direction. So I'm going to put 2 lines in, which should give me my 3 sections. And on this problem, I'm going to shade in lightly. 1/3. And again, I'm going to do a little darker when I'm on the part that's already shaded in so that I know that it's shaded twice. I'm going to label this as I had some students who only wanted to shade in this part here. My concern always is that when students do that, most of the time they don't break this part up, and so they end up not getting the correct denominator. And so we're taught to do it with the double shading like this so that you do make sure that you get both parts of your fraction. So in this case, again, I'm going to look at my denominator is the total number of squares inside, and then my numerator is what's double shaded. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 total possibilities here. But of the ones that are double shaded, we just have 1. So 1/6 of his garden is double shaded. So we're going to go back over here. because Charlie wants us to write down how much of the garden is red carnations. And again, we just wrote it. That was 1/6 of the garden is red carnations. We're going to delta right now. Come on now. It says, what fraction of the garden is not carnations? And this is one of those cases that I taught a couple of classes, and we looked at it a little differently. We said how much of the fraction or how much of the garden was not red carnations. That's not what it said. I didn't use my good reading comprehension and reread the problem. And so that's important to know that, sometimes you got to look at the problem again to make sure you have the right answer. So we're going to say, we're going to have what fraction of the garden is not carnations. So if we go back over here, we're talking just carnations. So we know that 1/2 of the garden is carnations. Our whole, when we had it that way, was 2/2. So that means 1/2 of the garden is not carnations. It could be dahlias, sunflowers, whatever else that he has that he wants to plant. Charlie says, or Echo, excuse me, express the number of red carnations with a number sentence. Some kids really remembered what a number sentence was. Some students struggled with that. So a number phrase is an expression. A number sentence is an equation, an equal sign. So we need to have what we did in an equation. We're writing it as an equation. So we know that our answer that we got, because it's right here, is equal to 1/6. We also know that we originally had 50% of the garden was carnations, which was 1/2. We also knew right here, we can look back at this resource page, that 1/3 of those carnations are red. So we know that we also should have the fraction 1/3. And we're talking about area. So when we're talking about area of a rectangle, we multiply. So, and just to make sure that you understand, or another way that we would know that it was multiplication is we could look at the title of the lesson. That's the other way that we can do that, okay? So that is the first lesson on multiplying fractions. Don't forget to do the homework that is here. Be sure to ask questions if you have any.